This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
Lord, and we'll deal with it another time in a better situation. Just ignoring the real problem. Or, and this is so important to understand, victimizing is when you abuse your authority. You abuse your authority. Now let me give you a little formula for authority. Responsibility plus protection equals authority. Responsibility plus protection equals authority. If you're a father who has abandoned your children, you have failed in the area of protection. Therefore, you have no more authority in that child's life. Now, you can become authoritarian, and you can really push your will on that child, but you've lost authority. That child no longer respects your authority. Responsibility plus protection equals authority. If you're a boss and you don't take responsibility for your employees, you lose your authority. Oh, you still have the title, and you still can say things and do things and hurt people's lives, but you've lost your authority. Because responsibility plus protection equals authority. And if God says, I want you to be in authority over this, what He's saying is, I want you to be responsible and to be protective. I want you to be responsible and protective, and that gives you your real authority. There's a loss of authority or an abuse of authority. When that happens, that you become a victimizer. And then there's transference of blame. I'm just going to blame, I know it's my fault, but I'm going to blame somebody else for it. They're also responsible, so I'll just push it on them also. Instead of assuming part of the responsibility, all of the responsibility, whatever, I'm just going to transfer my blame to somebody else. You see this, by the way, so often in business, where employers refuse to accept responsibility for their failures, and so what they do is they just fire the employee. Because it's just like, oh, you know what, we're just not going to deal with it anymore. We're going to cut our losses. We're going to ignore the real problem. And they abuse their authority and they transfer the blame. Even though they're responsible, or at least half responsible, even though they may be completely responsible. Just fire the employee. That way we can get rid of the issue. Jude 11 says this, woe to them. They have taken the way of Cain. They have rushed for profit into Balaam's error. They have been destroyed in Korah's rebellion. Now, these three things are really important to understand what this passage teaches. This is about this idea of victimizing people. And by the way, when I'm talking about victimizing, I'm not just talking about abusing. Abusing is part of it. You can be an abuser, which makes you a victimizer. But remember, anytime that you abuse somebody, you create a victim. Anytime that you are abused by somebody, you are a victim. And that's why I use the term victimizing. Because that's what it is. You create victims, or you become a victim. Just to say abuse isn't really revealing what the whole problem is. Victimizing is really what's happening. You are creating a victim when you misappropriate the wrong choice. When you make the wrong choice, because the wrong choice does not produce a solution; it produces a victim. And these three things in verse 11 of Jude talks about the way of Cain. The way of Cain was hatred and envy. It represents hatred. Remember, Cain murdered Abel. It was hatred and envy. And, excuse me, then committing Balaam's error. Balaam's error was reckless greed. Reckless greed. And then to continue in Korah's rebellion. Korah's rebellion was an attempt to usurp God's authority. Korah wanted to be more of a priest, a Levite priest, and he wanted more authority. He wanted to have more control. And so it's this picture, if you will, of usurping God's authority. Like, I want more than what God's giving me. And because I want more, then I'll do whatever I have to do to get more. Usurping God's authority. And the Bible says, woe to them. Woe to these people who operate out of hatred or envy, or who operate under reckless greed, or who usurp God's authority. Woe to them! When you make choices that way, you are under the discipline of God. So, it's important for us to understand that Abraham and Sarah became victimizers. It's exactly what they did. Hagar became a victim of their failure, of their wrong choices. They became victimizers. But what happens when you are the victim? What if you are the person that becomes the victim? Somebody has victimized you. Now, I know that in this class, and I know that people who listen to this study on CD or study it online, or watch on the videos, I know that there are a lot of people who are victims of abuse. And I want you to know that the Bible treats that very, very seriously. And here in this story with Hagar, we see something about how God does that. It's a very fascinating study. What should you do if you are a victim? If you are the one that has suffered abuse, whether it be physical or social or spiritual or mental or emotional, all of those are abuses. Anytime you are a victim of that sort of manipulation, you are an abuser.